All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Children's Worship. We're so glad that you've joined us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you have yours at home, you can certainly light it. Our Christ candle, that's the one you have. This is the one that we have in our classroom when we're all together. We light our Christ candle when we're together as a reminder that God is the light of the world, and he calls us, God is always with us, and he calls us to be the light of the world. That's what I think of when I look at my Christ candle and what we talk about every time we're together. So we have today a very special story. If you remember, we are in the church season called Epiphany, after Christmas, when Jesus was born, right during the time when he is beginning his ministry to people and sharing the kingdom of God. This is a really exciting story that we have today. One of the things that Jesus loved to do is he loved to tell stories and teach about the kingdom of God using something called a parable. And a parable is a special story where he uses something that people would know and would understand to symbolize the kingdom of God. So I want you to listen for what the symbolism is, and we're going to certainly talk about it after the story. So with that, we're going to begin. I wonder if this is a parable. It might be. Parables are very precious, like gold, and this box is gold. It looks like a present. Well, parables are like presents. They have already been given to us. We can't buy them or take them or steal them. They are already ours. There's another reason why this might be a parable. It has a lid. And sometimes parables have lids on them. But when you lift the lid of a parable, there is something very precious inside. I know. Let's take off the lid and see if this is a parable. I wonder what this could be. It's a different color. It's not really yellow, and it's not really brown. I wonder if it's a road, or it could be soil. I wonder who these men are. I wonder who this is. Jesus said such wonderful things and did such amazing things that people wanted to be near him, to hear what he had to say, and to ask him questions. Jesus often told stories to help people understand how God wanted them to live. One day, Peter came to Jesus and said, "How many times should I forgive someone who has hurt me?" Jesus listened to Peter's question, then told him a story. Once, there was a king who was busily figuring out what each of his servants owed him. And when he saw that one of his servants owed him a very large sum of money, he called for that servant. The king told the servant that he owed a lot of money, and unless he could pay it back immediately, the servant's wife, children, and everything he owned would be sold to repay the loan. The servant fell down before the king. He begged and pleaded with the king, saying, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you back everything I owe." When the king saw how upset the servant was, his heart was touched, and he felt sorry for the servant. He forgave him everything he owed and sent him on his way. Now, the forgiven servant went and found another servant who owed him just a little bit of money. He grabbed the man and said fiercely, "Pay me what you owe me." The servant fell face down and begged the foreign servant, saying, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything I owe you." The forgiven servant refused to have patience with this man. Instead, he ordered that he be sent to prison until he could repay everything that he owed. When the servant's friends saw what was done, they felt sad. They went and told the king all that they had seen and heard. The king called the forgiven servant to him. He looked at the servant and said, "Oh, you wicked servant, I forgave you everything you owed me because you begged me to. Shouldn't you also forgive your fellow servant, just as I forgave you?" Then the king sent the servant to prison until he could repay all he owed. So, in our story today, we have a king who is very kind and a servant who is forgiven. And once he is forgiven by the king, he goes and doesn't forgive someone else. And what Jesus was trying to tell Peter was that you should continue forgiving, that you shouldn't be mean because God has always been nice to us and always forgives us. So this is a little bit of a confusing story, and it's especially confusing not to be able to take your questions right now and see the parts that you don't understand. But what God wanted us to see with this parable was that he wanted us to do like what the king did and forgive the servant. And then what he expected was the servant that was forgiven would give that forgiveness on down. And he wasn't happy when that happened. And so what we need to remember is that we should always forgive. And I know sometimes it's hard. If somebody hurts your feelings, or if something happens and you might have an argument with one of your siblings, you can feel mad and you can feel hurt, and it's hard to forgive right away. So our craft today is kind of a cool little poem. So you have with you, there's 3 little pieces of paper, and what you're going to do is you're going to cut out the hands, and if you glue them upside down, if you glue them with the palms facing up, they form a heart, and then you have a heart sticker in your bag that you can put on afterwards. This is called a Forgiving Fingers poem. So sometimes when you get mad, we do this in our house sometimes. Instead of, I call it a fist pump, but I have, especially my younger one, I have her make a fist and pump her fist instead of hitting or being, stomping. We call it fist pumping. So she forms a fist with her hands when you're mad because you're like, "I'm so mad," right? Well, with this poem says 1, 2, these are called forgiving fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm waiting till my anger dies. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I'm still mad, I'll count again. So this is a reminder for you that we should always forgive each other and be kind. So if you're really mad at somebody, before you lash out or say something that you're going to regret or that you wish you wouldn't have said that will maybe get you in trouble, first you stop and you count to 10 and try to cool down. And if you're still mad after counting to 10, count to 10 again. And this little poem will help you do that. So that is your craft for today, if you choose to do it. And we will close with prayer. Dear Jesus, thank you for providing many examples on the way in which we are to live. And thank you for teaching us and for using things like parables so that we can learn how it is that you want us to live. Please help us to remember to forgive others as you have forgiven us, just like your prayer that we say every week tells us. So with now we're going to say the prayer that you taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.